financial emergencies. Get assistance with food, fuel, shelter, clothing, transportation, and even funeral and medical expenses. If you're a veteran facing a financial emergency, apply for Nebraska Veterans Aid through your county veteran service officer. Learn more at veterans.nebraska.gov/NVA. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Infrastructure, a veteran-owned local company proudly serving Lincoln, Lancaster County, and the surrounding areas. Bauer provides quality work at an affordable price, and they're growing rapidly. If you want to experience a career with a fast-paced, family-friendly environment, visit BauerInfrastructure.com. They have top-of-the-line benefits, year-round work, even through the winter. Bauer, usher in the new era of infrastructure to an area near you. And as always, go Big Red.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
Wrestling fans, it's time to elevate your game, just like Stevens & Smith Construction does for your concrete needs. As your full-service concrete contractor, we deliver solid results every time. From singles to doubles, fighting for inside position to scrambling reversals, we know how to pin down quality and slam expectations. Stevens & Smith Construction, a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket, where Husker wrestlers bring you all the action. Don't stall. Stevens & Smith Construction is here to help you build a concrete foundation for the win. Check us out at www.stevensandsmith.com because stalling is a penalty and winning is the only option.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, a chance of snow showers throughout the day. It'll be breezy and cold with a high of 0. Tonight, a chance of snow showers, otherwise cloudy and cold, a low of -7. And tomorrow, with heat flurries possible, otherwise decreasing clouds, continued cold temps, a high of 4 above. I'm meteorologist Kyle Beck for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Experience the Landmark difference with the next level of dealer support. Landmark, your local John Deere dealer, continually works to have parts on hand the first time you walk in the door. Our internal route system means we can get the parts to you typically same or next day to keep you up and running. At Landmark, we understand time is money. Get more uptime with our after-hours parts and service support on the phone or in the field. Stop by your local Landmark today to experience the Landmark difference.
This is On the Block with Strick and Austin. Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer and 9-year NBA vet, Eric Strickland. Nebraska Football Hall of Famer, Jake Foreman. Middle school basketball coaching legend and Duke basketball shooting coach in his mind, Austin Orman. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Presented by NEBCO. This is On the Block.
Welcome to it. Snowy Tuesday edition of the show. We got 1 hour to talk some Nebraska baseball. I'm Austin Norman. To my left, filling in for Strick and for Jay is Nick Sainer. Nick, welcome back to the studio, my friend.
Austin, it's good to be here. A week ago at this time, we were talking about all things exciting, what the road could have ahead in store for us. Now we know a little bit, not a whole lot. 4 games in, please don't overreact, but I'm excited to overreact with you.
That is exactly what we are going to do for the course of the next 52 minutes or so. There is no overreacting to NEBCO. They do great work. We cannot overstate how great NEBCO is. Visit them at nebcoinc.com, especially if you are a mechanic or if you are a CDL driver, nebcoinc.com. Start your career with NEBCO today. 402-464-5685 if you got any thoughts on anything we're talking about. We're going to talk Husker baseball for the hour. This segment, what went right? What did we like from the weekend? What did Nebraska baseball show us that was good? We'll get to the not so good, the touch and go, the hit and miss in the second segment of the show. And then some interesting comments from Alex Cora and Rafael Devers related to the Red Sox lineup coming down the pipe here. So we'll get to that to round out the show. Cubsker, happy Tuesday to you as well. You're an OG. You're always around. You're on the block. Appreciate you being around listening to the show. All right, Nick, let's just start with this. 2-2 weekend for Nebraska. Is that what you expected? Less than you expected? More than you expected? Where are you at, first of all, with a 2-2 record from the Huskers?
Well, I think as before we dive too deep into this, understand that Nebraska Northern team, I mean, this is somewhat what we're accustomed to seeing at times, right? From a lot of Northern teams where they'll beat some really good teams and they'll play competitive baseball, but might not be able to get the best of some of the other teams that are playing or in a warmer climate 365 days of the year. Obviously, you look outside the window here, and we are in complete opposite of what they would consider a warmer climate. So I think like it's important to understand the geography does play a factor when you're talking baseball, softball, as well, especially baseball, just because Nebraska, while the weather's been warmer for, compared to average temperatures, it's not like you're playing in Arizona. The ball's not going to fly like you play in Arizona. It's just there's differences. You didn't
get the scrimmages like these other teams
100%.
did.
And so I think it's important just to keep all of that in mind. Now, on top of that, I was a little disappointed. I was encouraged by a couple of individual performances. I was disappointed by a couple of individual performances as well, which we'll get to. But overall, 2-2, if you would have said, okay, Nick, you're going to be 2-2, I think this is the best version of 2-2. And what I mean by that is, or one of the better ones, sure, you probably would have liked to play, be able to knock off UC Irvine to start. UC Irvine's a good ball club. They're a 40-win team last year. They made a regional final. They're a quality baseball team. You beat Vanderbilt, and you beat San Diego State in the fashion that you were supposed to, 13-0. San Diego State helped you out quite a bit with 3 errors on the day as well, but Nebraska was able to get the job done. Yesterday, it was disappointing. You can't blame it on the pitching, and that's what surprised me the most. I thought if something that was going to let Nebraska down this weekend, it would be the pitching, and I look away from yesterday, and I don't say that. Yesterday specifically against Grand Canyon.
That's fair. I would say the weekend started with a pitching letdown, though.
Okay, yeah, on Friday. Yeah,
and we'll get back to that because I think we're going to have a lot of constructive criticism with the context that you perfectly laid out there about the climate to come. But let's start with the encouraging performances from you. Who were those couple individual performances that you would point back to?
I thought Keenan Brumbaugh did a really good job out of the leadoff spot. Brum goes, he after the four game weekend, I'm looking at it here, is hitting 278 right now. He started at leadoff in all 4 of those games. The strikeout number is a little high. He had 5 Ks over the weekend, 4 hits, but ultimately I thought he did a really good job of what we talked about is important. Maybe we expected Overbeek to be a little higher up there. So I think that was something that threw us off just because in 2024, that's where Joshua Overbeek was near the leadoff spot, if not in the leadoff spot. So I think maybe as that guy, we talked about discipline at bats. How can you prolong ABs? And there were multiple scenarios where to start the game, especially against Vanderbilt, and even yesterday against Grand Canyon, he was able to stretch out at bats. And when you look at the matchups and Vanderbilt, they were throwing a guy who didn't have a ton of experience, but also is a very emotional day going on around Nebraska baseball and around Nebraska athletics. It was good for Brumbaugh to be at the top to just kind of let the rest of the guys settle in for a moment. Yeah. If he swings at the first pitch, it's crap. Max Butenbach's got to come up right away. Then you have a younger guy going against Vanderbilt. And you talk about momentum, the ability for the Commodores to gain momentum. Yesterday, you look at it as Grand Canyon was starting a freshman pitcher. It was his first collegiate start on the mound, and Brumbaugh is able to get on base. And then guess what? How does Brumbaugh advance? They put pressure on the freshman. The way we talk about how Nebraska is going to have to win games this year, and will like winning games this year, bolt ball, if you will, manufacture runs. They get Brumbaugh over to third base, and guess what? Dylan Carey does his job. Doesn't need to do anything special. We don't need a gap shot from Dylan Carey, who led the team in doubles last season. That's not what you need in that moment. You need somebody to do their job. and he hit a ground ball to the shortstop. It was far enough to the right where it didn't have a play at the plate. Brumbaugh was off on contact and ends up scoring. It was a perfect start to the ball game yesterday for the first 4 innings.
Really, yeah.
But then once again, we have the criticism. But other than that, I really thought Brumbaugh did a really good job at the top of the lineup.
Brumbaugh's the guy that I put in the fine category.
Yeah.
He was as expected. I thought he wasn't a guy that showed rust. He's a guy that lived up to what we had heard over the offseason. He did what I expected of him. I was impressed by that. The guy that I thought had a really good weekend in backing up the promise, Nick, was Case Sanderson.
Yeah.
Hitting in that 3 spot all weekend. He got all 4 starts. He comes out of the first 4 games with a 3.08 average, 4 hits in 13 trips, scored 3 times, 5 total bases for him. Not a whole lot of power, just the 1 double for Case Sanderson, but he's the only guy on the team that walked more than he struck out this weekend. Case Sanderson in the 3-hole took 4 walks, did strike out 3 times. That's an on-base percentage of .474. And this is a guy that you'd like to see the power come along. Gap to gap, low pull power as well for him. But I think hitting in that 3-hole as a sophomore after the summer he had, it would have been really easy for him to press and say, I'm the guy. There are a couple moments where in the past, maybe he swings at some of those pitches, or other guys in that same position are a little bit antsy. I really liked the patience from Case Sanderson, really helping set the tone for what he wants that top 3 in the lineup to be by taking pitches. Again, not doing a whole lot of damage on them. That'll have to come around by the time Nebraska, gets to Frisco, hopefully, but at the very least, by the time they get into conference play. But I think Case Anderson backed up pretty much everything the coaching staff was saying about him over the offseason.
I would agree. I think that was one of the big things that we talked about last Tuesday was Nebraska stars need to be stars. And like, while Nebraska's not going to be a team that hits, a billion home runs on the year like some of the SEC or Big 12 powerhouses, they can still win games, but they still need to hit the long ball. They still need to be able to hit the gap shots, the doubles, the extra base hits. That's the word the phrase I was looking for. And I guess to piggyback on that, I felt like Gabe Swanson was trending in the right direction because of his performance against Vanderbilt. But then we saw vintage Gabe at times, especially yesterday against Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Where it was a little bit of undisciplined approach at the plate. Maybe trying to do a little too much. I think yesterday a lot of it too was frustration started to creep in because Nebraska had so much success on Saturday against Vanderbilt and the emotional win there. And then just the complete beatdown of how easy it came for them against San Diego State. The ability to flush it and look at it with a fresh perspective the next day, which we know, and everybody knows if you follow baseball in the slightest, you somewhat have to do that. You have to take it.
You can't not do that.
Yeah, you have to flush whether it was a great performance or a horrific performance the day before. You have to figure out a way to flush it and approach it with new set of eyes and a new scouting report. How are you going to attack it? You can come with the same mentality that allowed you to have success the day before, but it's a whole new ball game. And so I think we saw maybe at times yesterday frustration start to creep in, especially for a guy like Gabe, because it came to him so easy, like it did in the Big Ten tournament, like it did against Vanderbilt, and like it did on Sunday, that when you go out there and you get hit with adversity, I think Nebraska kind of froze for a moment.
When you have 6 RBI against a program like Vandy, even though it's, top 20 instead of top 10 right now, that's going to get in anyone's head. But I think the weekend for Gabe Swanson, on its face, not terrible. 250 batting average. He was 4 for 16 overall, 9 RBI coming out of the weekend. Again, all 6 of them against Vandy. But again, you show the lack of patience, maybe trying to do too much. No walks for a guy hitting in the heart of an order. If you're not getting fastballs or hanging breaking balls, I thought Gabe Swanson could have stood to take a few pitches. And on the one hand, you're right. It was kind of the Gabe Swanson experience, what we've gotten used to. And it's just 4 games. It's just one weekend. There's no reason to overact like you led the show off by saying. But Gabe Swanson can't be an X factor for Nebraska. He's got to be more consistent. He's got to be more dependable if he's going to hit 4th or 5th in that lineup, right? That's a guy who needs to find a way to get himself into that good mental headspace to not chase stats like Will Bolt said happens for Gabe at times in his preseason press conference. Gabe Swanson wasn't bad, But we need to see him take, I think, another step in the right direction. Pitching-wise, Will Walsh. Looks like that offseason paid off, Nick.
Yeah, nails, right? Like that's exactly what we need if you're a Nebraska baseball consumer. Like that's exactly the performance you need. I think despite Mason McConaughey's performance on Friday, which was, man, there was some really good stuff and then some really bad stuff as well. Ty Horn really impressed me with the way, not how he started off, but the way he settled in.
Yeah.
And he was able to then command, and part of that is because Nebraska was able to give him a little bit of a lead, but there was certainly adversity that he was met with. And as a younger guy, he settled in and was able to continue throwing strikes and being competitive in the zone, and the defense did the job. Will Walsh, though, yeah, right, against San Diego State, like we talked about it, Nebraska for the last 5 years has struggled to find a solid Sunday option. And I would almost argue, too, that Jackson Brockett gives them a good conversation to have, because yesterday's issue, and I'll say it again, was not the pitching in my at least the starting pitching. It was not the issue yesterday, but staying solely on Will Walsh. Absolutely. Like that's the type of stuff we needed to see from Will Walsh early in the year in these types of games, to then once Nebraska gets to Big Ten play or the last weekend in March when they play Oregon State at home, it's instead of when you're going for a sweep, he gives you as good of an effort or opportunity as anybody on that roster.
Yeah, I was going to get to Brockett next, so I'm glad you brought him up too. The two lefties in the back of Nebraska's starting rotation this weekend were nails. 7 innings, 5 hits, only 1 walk, and I guess a hit batter, but 6 strikeouts for Will Walsh. San Diego State is not a bad team. Will Walsh made them look overmatched. And then Jackson Brockett was not a guy that I was necessarily expecting to see 6 innings out of. Hit around a little bit, 6 hits in 6 innings. But, Nick, the important thing I think for Jackson Brockett, not an overpowering guy, so he's got to be around the strike zone, right? I thought he painted the corners pretty well. He threw in the zone, but wasn't necessarily overly hittable. No walks against 3 strikeouts. That's really what you're looking for in the midweek or on Sunday is, can you get the ball over the plate in places where the other team can't do damage with it? I thought Walsh was really good. I thought Brockett gave Nebraska every opportunity to win and really kept Nebraska in that game against Grand Canyon. The other thing I would say that really stood out to me as a positive, Nick, was the defense for Nebraska. No errors on the weekend.
Yeah.
That's what Will Bolt wants to build his team around, was the defense, right? It's always going to be the putting pressure on the other defense. Nebraska's opponents come out with 5 errors on the weekend. Not a whole lot of spectacular plays to be made for Nebraska, but like you talked about, going from playing indoors or 1 or 2 practices outside, taking in and out before the game, whatever it is, sometimes you get in and the speed of the game changes, the depth perception changes, and just being back on the field in live game reps, the ball looks different. The ball comes at you different. To see Nebraska go through 4 games without being charged for an error, I thought that was a really impressive defensive opening weekend, even though you won't see it plastered on SportsCenter.
I was very impressed with Dylan Carey. I mean, I was defensively. I was extremely impressed with DC. Had plenty of opportunities, and also in high leverage situations. Yeah, guys are on base. There's the runner is at third. There's a runner 90 feet away from scoring and taking the lead for the opponent. And Dylan Carey, there were multiple times yesterday specifically where he had a play or a ground ball hit to him, and he was able to make the play. Like, those are plays last year as somebody that led the team in errors. You kind of held your breath for a moment. And I thought Brumbaugh did a really nice job at second base. And I'm as big of a fan of Rhett Stokes as anybody around. And I think they're going to have to figure out a new spot to put Rhett in.
Yeah.
Because I think Rhett's bat gives you that consistent, dialed in approach at the plate where he's not going to try to do too much. He's not going to hit the ball around the yard. But in comparison to some of the ABs that we saw this weekend, I think you sometimes need that consistency as well. Sure, you love guys like Ty Stone and Gabe Swanson and Max Butenbach, who can certainly hit the ball around the yard. But I think also having that consistent approach at the plate of just, I'm here to do a job, and if that's to hit a single up the middle, I'm thrilled with that. If it's to bunt somebody over or hit a sac fly, whatever it might be, I'm capable of doing that. You're never going to ask Rhett Stokes to go up and hit a 400-foot bomb. That's not what his job is. But I think there's a part in the lineup for him. Now, is there a place in the field for him? And that's the bigger question.
Because his bat isn't big enough to DH him that
100%.
often. Maybe platoon, maybe matchup based, but it's a little different in college than it is in Major League Baseball. I still think you want a little bit more thump from that DH spot than Rhett Stokes can give you, unless you have a lineup where Ty Stone is at first base, Case Sanderson has moved to the outfield. Cale Frost maybe gets a day off, Gabe Swanson gets a day off, whatever that alignment is. If you have Stone and Sanderson in the same lineup, then maybe you can get away with a bat control guy. But Tyler Stone didn't get a start this weekend, just played in half the games. Same with Rhett Stokes, who played in 2 games, even though he did get 1 start. There is certainly a spot for Rhett Stokes on this team. This is one of the blessings and the curses, Nick, of what it looks like Nebraska has built depth-wise and what it could have moving forward as well, is that they have, 10, maybe 11 guys that in a normal year would deserve to see the field. Problem is they only got eight spots to put them and really only 7.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because there's no there. I mean, if you want to talk about the positions that are on lockdown, or the positions that are up in the air, let's do it that way. The positions that are up in the air, I was surprised to see Hogan Haligso get the start behind the plate, all 4. Even just as like a normal day off, like I would have seen like San Diego State, maybe they give a guy like Colin Cymbalista an opportunity to start behind the dish. But then you also have, relationships with pitchers that you have to keep in mind there.
And that's been a big thing for them.
100% and stuff. So I now come out of the weekend thinking that the behind the plate spot is not as open as maybe we thought it was. First base, I think, is on lockdown. I think second base, Brum had a great weekend fielding the ball in the middle. I think middle infield, you're good. Third base is the only spot because they started Rhett Stokes at third to start the weekend, and they didn't have Josh Overbeek out there, so that gives me a different view maybe of Overbeek,
who did play and start the next 3 games.
Yes, exactly, and that's why
opening day that was weird.
That's why I thought it was somewhat bizarre why he didn't, and it wasn't a matchup situation.
No,
center field I would say is probably the most open on the team.
Yeah, Silva ends up starting all 3 games he plays in. Robbie Bolin actually played in all 4 games. He only got the 1 start.
So that's where I wondered if we'll see maybe center field open up a little bit more. I don't know how good Stokes's outfield glove is. I don't know if that's an opportunity. Yeah, I don't know if that's an opportunity for him. That's where it's really unfortunate for like a guy like Rhett. It is because you don't know necessarily where you feel best about him. But I think Robbie Bolin and Riley Silva are still fighting it out. I mean, I know that at some point in the offseason, those guys at some point to their own had won the job at one point. Like Robbie Bolin had it at a moment, Riley Silva takes it back, vice versa. The gist of it. Cale Frost, I guess, in right field.
We'll get to him next segment,
I guess. So maybe that's a good segue.
Before we get to that, who do you think had the better weekend in center? Who should start at number 8?
Defensively, I thought Riley Silva did.
Catch at the wall.
Yep. I thought that stood out. And just from an experience standpoint, I truly don't think that's over though.
I tend to agree. 3 for 10 on the weekend for Riley Silva at the plate with a strikeout and a hit by pitch. Robbie Bolin gets 6 at bats, 2 hits, scored on both of those. Struck out 3 times, but Bolin did have the double.
I still think I think both of those guys are one of those where they'll be able to, whoever's not playing or starting in center, you're going to see him factor into most games, late inning running substitutions type of thing like that. I think you're going to start to see where Gabe Swanson is, not Gabe Swanson necessarily, but potentially if it's one of those guys, then you could see either Robbie Bolin or Riley Silva sub in as somebody to create some traffic on the base pass.
And then defensive replacement.
Absolutely.
Well. So I think you're onto something there. Let's take our first break of the show. When we get back, we'll go over what is maybe a cause for concern for Nebraska baseball. Again, just 4 games into the year. We're not freaking out, but we noticed some things. We'll talk about what maybe let us down a little bit from Nebraska baseball when we get back to On the Block.
Follow Austin Strick and On the Block on Twitter at Austin Orman, eStrick20, and On the Block 93.7. More of On the Block coming up.
Rain, snow, or shine, John Henry's is here to keep your home's plumbing systems working properly no matter what kind of weather Nebraska throws at us. From unclogging toilets and drains to installing new water heaters and water treatment systems, John Henry's is your plumbing expert in the Lincoln and Omaha communities. Visit us at calljh.com or call
John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air.
and electrical.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
Mulberry Barbecue now has a brand new second location to help all your lunch and dinner cravings. Stop by their newest location at 6125 Apples Way near Lowe's off of Highway 2. They have everything from smoked turkey sandwiches to brisket burritos to burn-in sandwiches and pulled pork. Try a dinner plate option of barbecue nachos, a half-smoked chicken, a full slab of ribs, and so much more. Mulberry Barbecue open Monday to Saturday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 11th and Cornhusker Highway and now at 6125 Apples Way in South Lincoln.
Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits is your place in North Lincoln to go for all your needs in wine, spirits, and beer. They also have a large variety of cigars in their walk-in humidor, and they have a top-notch walk-in, temperature-controlled, high-end wine bar. Plus, you can enjoy free samples from their tasting book. There's only one place to go for all your needs for wine, beer, spirits, and cigars. Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits on North 27th Street in Lincoln.
Are you facing a legal problem and don't know where to turn? You need trial attorneys you can trust. Liberty Law Group's experienced trial attorneys will handle your case with professionalism and compassion. Whether you have been accused of a crime, injured in an accident, or threatened with a lawsuit, you can trust that Liberty Law will be there for you. Call for a free consultation and find out how Liberty Law can protect your rights and interests. That's 877-42-LIBERTY, 877-42-LIBERTY, or visit libertylawnebraska.com. Liberty Law Group, trial attorneys you can trust.
Salt Mine City is not only Lincoln's newest brewery, but they're also now serving food. Enjoy a full menu of great items daily for lunch and dinner, like their peanut butter and jelly burger with bacon and cheddar cheese, or a Reuben sandwich served on Blackstone rye bread. Don't forget their beef or chicken nachos with guacamole, sour cream, jalapenos, and more. Wash it down with one of their 12 beers on tap, including the popular Single Axle Light American Lager. Salt Mine City, now open 11 a.m. every day but Mondays at 8th and R.
Have you heard about Advanced Medical Imaging Surgery Center? Located at 7555 Pioneers Boulevard, Advanced Medical Imaging Surgery Center offers compassionate, patient-focused care and provides outpatient surgery services, making it possible to have non-emergency surgery and return home the same day. Advanced Medical Imaging Surgery Center specializes in cardiology, vascular radiology, orthopedics, pain management, and much, much more. Give them a call today at 402-261-1085 or online at amimaging.com.
Now back to On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
Welcome back in to On the Block. Austin Norman and Nick Sainer with you here talking some Nebraska baseball. We just got done talking about what we liked from the Huskers over the weekend. We're about to get into what maybe let us down over the weekend. What will never let you down, Heartland of Nebraska Windows. They're based out of Hallam, and they offer a free estimate, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and a lifetime warranty on everything while still keeping their prices affordable. Heartland of Nebraska Windows, locally and family owned with their own team of installers. Give Heartland of Nebraska Windows a call today for more info at 402-430-3852, or you can visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. What's so funny over there, partner?
There's a video that I appreciate Rudy and the guys posting of my rant on Alex Bregman this morning.
It was legendary.
I'm going to chirp him.
Good.
Can't wait for it. Anyway, yeah, I mean, here we go, Austin. Disappointing parts of the season, the weekend. What ranks highest for you?
The McConaughey meltdown, which is hard to call it a meltdown because if you look at what Mason McConaughey was able to do as the ace for the first time for Nebraska, that was at least the title. 3 2/3, not good. 5 hits, not good. 6 runs, and all of them earned. Not great. 3 walks. You'd like to keep that down, especially in less than 4 innings. But, Nick, there were times he was untouchable.
Yeah.
9 strikeouts out of the 11 outs that Mason McConaughey got credited with. I mean, that's good. 9 strikeouts in 4 2/3 is ace-level stuff, except for everything else. Problem was for him, he was always 1 out away.
Yeah.
Could not finish innings off, and that would persist later in the game to Drew Christo as well, who couldn't get through innings.
Yeah, 8 runs allowed against Nebraska with 2 outs in the inning. That's detrimental, as we saw. Austin and I were kind of talking about it during the break of, 8 runs allowed with 2 outs. Even if you give up 1 or 2 of those, you still win the baseball game. You got to be able to close it down. And it doesn't have to be a strikeout. Like it's like a guy that throws 102 off the mound consistently. Paul Skeens is an example. Like Paul Skeens is going to be at his best when he's striking dudes out, sure. But guess what? If he doesn't have his strikeout stuff one day, you still got to be able to rely on the defense. And as we just alluded to last segment, the defense had a good weekend as a collective crew. And so allow your defense to work. That's where it's important for the ace, I think, to always remember that there are 8 guys behind him or 7 guys behind him and allow them to go to work. Allow them to go to work and you'll be just fine. That's why guys like Greg Maddux had such a good career. Pitch to contact. Find the bat, don't find the barrel. That's what you got to try to do. And while McConaughey had a great day with the strikeout stuff, like you just mentioned, if you can't get out of innings because guys are able to put barrels on the balls, then that's where the strikeouts don't matter.
That part. Also on the pitching side, in terms of letdowns for me, obviously Tucker Timmerman's face. His performance was fine, whatever. First appearance of the year. Feel bad for Tucker Timmerman and the 106 mile an hour off the bat comebacker he took off the face. So we hope surgery went well for him and he bounces back well.
What people don't realize is that grass is cut so low. It's not like it stops or it slows down. That baby skips.
That was
off
almost
of that.
turf-ish.
Yeah, essentially. So especially at a minor league ballpark or a major league ballpark where they play what's it? Why am I
Desert
thinking?
Invite.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where they play it. That thing skipped. That baby skips off of that turf or grass.
The other pitching performance I was kind of let down by, Nick, was Jalen Worthley.
Okay.
He gets the win against Vanderbilt in his 1 appearance of the weekend, inning in 2/3. Maybe it was just rust, right? But you allow a hit and 3 walks in an inning in 2/3 and a wild pitch. That wasn't the Jalen Worthley I was expecting. I still, that's where it's a letdown, a little bit of a disappointment for an opening weekend. I'm not too worried. I'm not too concerned. Would have been really nice if Jalen Worthley would have been able to slam the door a little bit more emphatically, I guess, for Nebraska. Again, tough lineup. It was against Vanderbilt, and that's got to factor into it. But I did expect a little more from Jalen Worthley in opening weekend.
I think we saw exactly what we're going to see consistently from Nebraska's staff against Vanderbilt in the late innings of Vanderbilt. I think you're going to see Nebraska's staple at the end of games will be Worthley in the middle to late innings, in 7th inning and on, I would say. Luke Broderick slamming the door.
Yeah.
And if you maybe can throw like a Casey Dice in there potentially, I was surprised we didn't see Casey Dice once this weekend.
At all.
I was surprised by that. But if that's I think Nebraska, we talked about it Tuesday, high leverage guys, you're looking at those 2 at the top. I was okay with Worthley because I thought I saw the rust at the start, like you kind of mentioned, but once again, similar to what we saw from Ty Horn earlier in the day, he settled in and he started to look more like himself. He had the breaking ball working quite a bit. And then guess what? You're able to run, the mid-90s fastball up there too. You're going to be, successful at this level. So if that breaking ball continues to work for Worthley and he can pump it, Luke Broderick, man, it came in and slammed the door. That's exactly what you wanted to see from him. You want to talk about having the ability to mix your pitches. He had Vanderbilt off balance the entire time. Didn't know if it was going to be the big looping curveball that has it's a big. This is where it's going to contradict myself. It would look like a big looping curveball, but it had tight movement.
Well, the Seth Lugo curveball.
Yes, yes, and so And there's going to be a lot of baseball people that are out there and be like, that's not even possible.
Well, it's a hammer
It
curve.
is. It drops, and the movement is so drastic, but it has such tight spin.
And that's why that happens. The tighter the spin, the more revolutions on a curveball.
You're right.
You can throw it with a little more of that upward arc is what it's going to look like coming out of the hand at the beginning.
Yeah.
But because of the number of RPMs, revolutions per minute, by the time it reaches the plate, it's going to tumble more.
Yeah, 100%. And then similar to Jalen, where it's if you're able to bring in, and Broderick did this in the later stages, if you're able to bring 94 in on the hands, guess what? That's going to get the best of hitters off balance. I thought it's important to mention both of those guys had to face RJ Austin.
Yeah.
In their outings, who is Vanderbilt's best player, leads off top of the lineup guy for Vandy. And I thought they handled him extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's a guy that will be playing in the majors. He'll get his draft opportunity. He's essentially, I mean, I would compare him for Husker fans as like Case Sanderson 2.0, like better than Case.
Yeah.
And stuff. Has the ability to hit the long balls we saw earlier in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, that's the thing and Will Bolt talks about it, Rob Childress talks about it. If you're at this level, you need at least two. You need at least two pitches to be working night in and night out.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, even though in the early stages Jalen's performance, it was rocky, he still had both pitches working. And that was the big reason why they were able to get out of it.
Numbers were really bad for Drew Christo. Was the performance as bad as the numbers indicate?
Yeah. I lean towards yes. And maybe it's because I think it's time for us to be critical of a guy like Drew Christo.
Mm-hmm.
Both good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Understand and understand the good that comes with him. Understand though also this is now year 3 of Drew Christo.
Mm-hmm.
And the expectation of when he got to campus in Lincoln was potentially a guy that could start some midweeks for Nebraska, but ultimately kind of that middle of the game, 5th, 6th, 7th inning type. If he can lock it down and win the middle third of a baseball game for you, then you'll take it and be thrilled with it. Mm-hmm. This is also another guy that had MLB opportunities or was getting looks coming out of high school, out of Elkhorn High School. And we just have not seen it come to fruition. And not even on a spotty basis. It has not been consistent, unfortunately, but it hasn't been like where, that's the flash that we were expecting. It just hasn't felt like it's gotten there yet.
It hasn't. I thought there was going to be a spot for Christo to maybe grow into even like a Jake Buns role.
Yeah.
Fireman, throw hard, float past guys, break out a slider occasionally, and that's going to be that. It just hasn't come together. So where I'm at with Drew Christo, Nick, is anything you get from him is great.
Yeah, I agree.
Nebraska's probably going to go back to him more and more. They like him. He's a hard worker. Seems like he's respected on the team, and credit to him for that. But this is where, can Carson Yassa step into that role that we expected for Drew Christo? Price Bender, I thought, had an all right weekend as well. Grant Clevenger hasn't gotten many opportunities. Wasn't great in the 4 games. I guess he only appeared in the one of them as well, though. But at this point, if they're going to keep running Christo out there.
Yeah,
I'm kind of moved on to other options.
I think partially, I sit here and think they should keep running him out there, because at some point, now understand what I mean by this is like at some point Drew Christo's got to show up.
Yeah,
like there's that type of approach I think to this conversation. Sure, if it starts to become, hurtful to the team and you're losing games simply because of Drew Christo, go in another direction. But also at some point, like, understand you got to take them out and just throw strikes. Like, you got to figure out a way to work through some of this, because there will be a time down the road if Nebraska gets late into a tournament or late into the regional, they're going to need arms. They just need them naturally throughout the course of a season. Guys are going to deal with soft tissue issues, or guys are going to get soreness, or whatever it might be. You need arms. And we see it in Major League Baseball all the time. And I think we're going to start to see it more and more in the college game, if we haven't already, where bullpens are so fluid. Like, they are so fluid. Major League Baseball, it's an easy comparison because you can sign a closer, but it's within 2 weeks, he could get hurt and need Tommy John and need UCL repair, and your entire bullpen's just shot.
Yeah.
We've seen it time and time again. I don't know if that's necessarily the case at the college level because of the depth. Because, like, I look at it like a guy maybe a couple of years ago, the best comparison would be Chad Linsman.
Sure.
Chad Linsman was going to have the back end of that bullpen on lock for Nebraska. Gets hurt right before the season starts, and Nebraska didn't have any kind of quality bullpen. And that was before Will Bolt's time.
And a lot of that comes from guys that have to, pitch one spot up. Or guys have to hit one spot up. We saw this on the lineup side with the Royals last year. Vinny Pasquantino gets his thumb broken.
Yes.
Guess what? You got to move Salvador Perez up a spot in the lineup. Michael Massey up a spot in the lineup. That's a good, 4 and 7 guy. But when they're 3 and 5, the lineup's a lot different. It's the same thing with pitchers, where if you have an injury to your ace, you have an injury to your closer, sure, you would like to think that your fireman, your 8th inning guy, can step into that role. But Nick, you've played enough baseball. There's something about that 9th inning, that 7th inning, whatever it is. You know what the stakes are.
It takes a different type of dude.
The best make it feel like every time they go out there, it's the same thing. But for a young pitcher who doesn't have experience in that moment mentally, it is a different beast. So yes, not having that guy locked down does drastically impact things for bullpen.
I think this in a similar way, for the sake of this conversation, I think in a similar way when we're talking about high leverage guys in the bullpen, and especially in the later innings of games, and Jalen Worley is going to be the name that we talk a lot about, Luke Broderick as well. But to insert Drew Christo in that conversation into this as well, I think it's important because in the same light that me and Austin are talking about how Jalen Worthy settled in or Luke Broderick settled in quickly.
Yeah.
That's a positive. And Drew Christo does not settle in or does not look comfortable. Both of these following statements can be true. It's that it's the first week and guys don't have to be settled in. That's okay. So I'm not writing Drew Christo off yet for this season. But as much as that statement can be true, so can this one. This was an opportunity for guys to show that from day one, you're locked in.
An upperclassman to show you're locked in.
So I think both of those things can be true, which you can sit here then after the week and say, wait and see. And it's okay. If we're still having the same conversation 3 Tuesdays from now in the 3 o'clock hour, then it's going to be a different conversation and more so of the move on. Let's find out what Price Bender can do. Let's find out maybe what a Caleb Clark can consistently do out of the pen, because it feels like that Sunday spot is going to be either Will Walsh or Jackson Brockett.
I tend to agree. One last kind of disappointment from the weekend. This is one that I would have been maybe a little bit more concerned about, but hearing from Will Bolton, hearing from Evan Blaine about this one, I'm willing to say, okay, it's just maybe an adjustment up a level in competition, and that's Kale Frost.
Yeah.
Nick, to get 4 starts all in right field, to not have a hit on the weekend for a guy that you primarily got for the bat was a bit of a disappointment. To Frost's credit, yes, he did have the 4 strikeouts, also drew 3 walks, and got hit by a couple of pitches there. So he was on base those 5 times, ended up scoring a run. Again, it's 1 week, it's 4 games. It's the blessing and the curse of baseball is that when it's going good, hey, guess what? You got another game the next day to keep it going. When it's going bad, oh crap, you're going to have another day of baseball coming ahead of you. You don't have a chance to mentally reset. Kale Frost is an upperclassman. I'm not too worried about it. Sounds like it took him a little bit of time to settle in across the fall and the spring as well. So that's a guy that I expect will get hot and carry Nebraska probably for a couple weeks. But man, for your biggest transfer portal addition to go out there, get 4 starts and not put up a single hit, that's a bit of a letdown.
Well, especially in a lineup that it felt like hits were sometimes difficult to come by this weekend, especially on Monday. I mean, we talked about the strikeout numbers earlier today off air. I mean, Nebraska as a team, 44 strikeouts at the plate this weekend in 4 games. That's, I mean, you're averaging over 11 a game. 11 team strikeouts at the plate.
11 of your 27 outs that you get, the ball was not in play.
And once again, the usual trade-off of, okay, if you're hitting the long ball and you're striking out and it's a 50-50 split or even a 35-65 split, you can live with it at times.
Yeah.
Nebraska's not doing that.
2 homers on the week.
Yeah, Nebraska's not doing that. And so they have to figure out a way, because the strikeout numbers through the first weekend are very similar and resembling of last year.
Yeah.
Which was certainly an issue. You had multiple guys here. I mean, here's this, or excuse me, there was more. Was it 44 strikeouts?
The stats that I have pulled up are 44 strikeouts against 18 walks.
Against 18 walks.
And 10 hit by pitches.
Thank you. So, I mean, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your 9 starters that played in all 4 games had over 5 strikeouts.
Yeah.
So once again, there's depth. There's other options in the lineup. Who do they trust? Are they able to find some guys that can consistently at least put strikeouts are sometimes just a misleading stat on their own from the surface, because you have guys like Brumbaugh who will have 12 pitch at bats and then strike out. It's fine. But ultimately, and Nebraska's got to figure out a way to put some more bats on balls.
2 quick things here. One from the text line from Outdoors Kevin. How long will Tucker Timmerman be out? Probably indefinitely, right? That's a face surgery. By the time that heals enough, by the time he gets ramped back up, hopefully, I don't even know. I don't want to put a timeline on it. It's wait and see, I guess, with Tucker Timmerman right now. Yeah, I mean, they flew him back to, just for context, flew him back to Omaha the day after. He was not with the team on Saturday, or Sunday and Monday. So we'll see what happens going forward. I mean, there's so many of those little bones also in the face that, and I would also mind people like be cautious with like ear stuff too. Like the ears and the left ear for Tucker Timmerman. Obviously, we don't know any of that stuff, but there's so much more than just the nose. It's the eye. It's underneath the eye. It's the jaw. There's so much there. That you could break one little bone that just continues to nag. And you're a pitcher. You're 60 feet 6 inches away. There's a big mental piece of that. And Timmerman's a bulldog. That's his reputation. I'm less worried about that, but it is certainly a factor. In the last minute or so here too, Nick, I do want to point out the left on base numbers for Nebraska.
Yeah, bad.
Not great, but especially from the top of the lineup. 3 against Irvine. Offense wasn't necessarily the problem, but the top 5 batters in Nebraska's order did leave 3 guys on base. Yeah, not great, but that's game 1. Okay, whatever. 2 guys against Vandy would have been nice to have a little more cushion, but Gabe Swanson did a lot of damage. 3 against San Diego State, you write off. But 7 men left on base by the top 5 in Nebraska's order against Grand Canyon. Brumbaugh left a couple. Max Butenbach had a rough day against the Lopes. 3 strikeouts out of his 4 at-bats, and then Gabe Swanson, 2 strikeouts out of his 4 at-bats. Your 2-hole Max Butenbach at DH and your 5-hole Gabe Swanson left 5 guys on base in a game that Nebraska scored in the first inning and never again. That one's going to sting. Yeah, it was the perfect start to the game. It was the perfect script to start. You got to run in the first inning. You did that a couple of times this weekend. That's the way you needed to start, especially against a freshman pitcher. You were able to chase him out of the game early as well. Brockett looked to be cruising through 5. He lets up that home run in the 6th. It's not the solo home run that killed you. It's not the 6th. It's not that. It's the guys that you left on base offensively. That's why I felt like Brockett's, he didn't get credit for the loss, and I'm glad he didn't, because it wasn't his fault. It was not. One more break. We'll wrap up on the block with still some more baseball talk, but we'll shift it to MLB. Alex Cora's comments on Rafael Devers to round out the show.
Download our app by searching for 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day wherever you are. More of On the Block next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Are you a skilled mechanic looking for your next big opportunity? Constructors is hiring. We're looking for experienced mechanics to join our family-owned team. We offer competitive wages, great benefits, brand new service trucks, OEM-level diagnostic software, and career growth opportunities. Positions include lead and A-level mechanics for our shop and multiple field technicians. If you're driven and ready to grow with a company that's been around since 1908, apply today at constructorslincoln.com.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, a chance of snow showers throughout the day. It'll be breezy and cold with a high of 0. Tonight, a chance of snow showers, otherwise cloudy and cold, a low of -7. And tomorrow, with heat flurries possible, otherwise decreasing clouds, continued cold temps, a high of 4 above. I'm meteorologist Kyle Beck for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Salt Lake City is not only Lincoln's newest brewery, but they're also now serving food. Enjoy a full menu of great items daily for lunch and dinner, like their peanut butter and jelly burger with bacon and cheddar cheese, or a Reuben sandwich served on Blackstone rye bread. Don't forget their beef or chicken nachos with guacamole, sour cream, jalapenos, and more. Wash it down with one of their 12 beers on tap, including the popular Single Axle Light American Lager. Salt Mine City, now open 11 a.m. every day but Mondays at 8th and R.
Are you facing a legal problem and don't know where to turn? You need trial attorneys you can trust. Liberty Law Group's experienced trial attorneys will handle your case with professionalism and compassion. Whether you have been accused of a crime, injured in an accident, or threatened with a lawsuit, you can trust that Liberty Law will be there for you. Call for a free consultation and find out how Liberty Law can protect your rights and interests. That's 877-42-LIBERTY, 877-42-LIBERTY, or visit libertylawnebraska.com. Liberty Law Group, trial attorneys you can trust.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the K&TK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeit. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket. Load up on meat and more this winter at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese. This week's special through February 18th is 15% off chocolates, 15% off wines and spirits, and $10 off filet mignon per pound. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Old Cheney in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100, and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe. Now back to On the Block with Eric Strickland, Jay Foreman, and Austin Orman.
One final segment of On the Block before we get you off to Takedown Tuesdays and the Teammates Timeout. Final segment of the show, always brought to you by Love Volleyball Omaha. Cold outside, make sure you're watching a nice, warm indoor sport. Love Volleyball Omaha will play the Liberty First Credit Union Arena in Ralston. You can watch some national champions, some national team members, and some Olympians all play for Love Volleyball Omaha. Get your single match tickets at lovboma.com. That's lovboma.com. Wrapping up on the baseball theme of the show, let's hear from Alex Cora at spring training after the Boston Red Sox signed career third baseman Alex Bregman. Rafael Devers was not happy necessarily about that. He thinks third base is his position. There's been some rumors maybe that Alex Bregman would move to second base. We'll see how that plays out. But here's an interaction with Alex Cora and a Boston Red Sox reporter down at spring training.
He said when he signed the long-term extension that you guys said that he'd be the third baseman long-term. Do you think the relationship is strained right now? He doesn't seem happy that, like, the team has gone back on their word. It's strange between
different people here, right? There's a different leader here. So, Haim is in St. Louis right now.
Your reaction, Nick Sainer?
It's bizarre. I mean, statistically, sadly, Rafael Devers has been one of the worst third basemen in the league the last couple of seasons. Defensively, hitting, he's very good. He has a very valuable bat. So naturally, you think, okay, let's move Rafael Devers to designated hitter. However, he is the face of the Boston Red Sox right now. You think Pedroia's gone. There's no Jacoby Ellsbury. They're not there.
Ortiz, no John Lester.
Yeah, they're gone. This is their thing. So ultimately, I find it hilarious because we had this conversation last week when Bregman signed that they are going to move him to second base. It felt like a temporary fix, as they have the number 7 prospect in all of baseball ready to come up to the majors, who is a second baseman. So then you move Bregman to third, which could piss off the face of your franchise. Either move him out or you just spent $40 million a year on some dude and don't know where to put him.
Get talent, figure the rest out later is certainly a strategy that the Boston Red Sox have not employed much of, and I know their fans are happy to see them spending money again. Yeah. It shouldn't be that tricky a line to walk, though. You should be able to look at Rafael Devers and say, dude, your glove is bad. Yeah. You don't have range. You've had some throwing errors as well. You mash, right? And of course, Tristan Casas came out with some interesting comments as well that we don't have for you, but basically saying Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, those guys, Marcelo Mayer, aren't ready yet. Keep them down. We got veterans in the bigs. And you brought up a good point, Nick. He's probably saying that because he doesn't want Devers taking his spot over at first base.
Exactly. So Cora today mentioned that Devers is going to get every chance he has to earn the third baseman role. He says, quote, the decisions that are going to be made here about roster construction, what we're going to do in the future, we're going to make sure we have the best possible team out there. It is about the Boston Red Sox. It's not about Devers, and it's not about Bregman. It's about the Boston Red Sox. He obviously, Devers, has a lot of pride. We know that. He feels like he's a third baseman. He's going to work out as a third baseman, and then we're going to have to make decisions accordingly. Does it feel like somebody that has third base on lockdown?
No.
Sorry, Rafael Devers.
And I like that from Alex Cora, right? Sometimes you have to play the politics game, but let's also not forget, Nick, there's that pre-existing relationship between the two Alexes.
Yeah, 100%.
Back in Houston.
100%.
So I am fascinated to see how that plays out. Any final thoughts as Nebraska gets ready to go to Louisiana at the end of the week for the baseball team?
Opportunity. Like this is one where at the end of the year we're going to look back and say, good thing that they took 2 of 3 or 3 of 3. Like this is their College of Charleston series from 2024. A series where they swept it, they made it look simple, they took care of business. And it was one that didn't harm them later in the year.
McConaughey, Horn, and Wall should get the ball for the Huskers. I'm sure we'll keep you posted on that. Thanks again to all the great sponsors here on the show for their work making this come true. Nebco, really appreciate them. Love Volleyball Omaha for the final segment. Heartland of Nebraska Windows there in the middle. For Nick, I'm Austin. Stick with us here on The Ticket. Takedown Tuesdays. Nebraska Wrestling assistant coach Travell Delagnov in studio next.
If you're in Seward or Milford, listen up. Select Plumbing is now servicing your area with no trip charges from Lincoln. Select Plumbing works on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, underground sewer and water repair,